Kevin Bowen here. Don't forget to listen to The Fan now on 93.5 or 107.5 FM, and check out our latest coverage online at 1075thefan.com.
The month of June is here. Kevin's Corner will not stop. We will continue all the way up until training camp, less than 2 months away, which is wild to think about it. I guess 7 weeks now away, 8 weeks away from Grand Park for training camp. I cannot wait, but I will also thoroughly enjoy these next couple of months. Chris Presley across the way. I'm Kevin Bowen. We are back on a Wednesday morning, a little bit of a hiatus with Memorial Day. We'll try to get to these, I think, back on our Tuesday schedule if we can, moving forward here in the offseason. But, Chris, how was your race extended weekend?
It was good. Like I was telling you, it was a little bit different not being at the track this year.
Right.
One of the first years in a long time that I've not been out there. Still love listening to it on WIBC and 107.5 The Fan with the simulcast, the pomp and circumstance. Like, I just love all the tradition, everything about it.
Same.
And you were there. You were in turn 4, just underneath Chris Vinatieri, the Pacers broadcaster. And
the legend. Yeah, it was great to see him before the race. And, I could not agree more with you. I am such a sucker for the pageantry and the tradition of it all in the pre-race. And to be back there and just have a sense of normalcy, and then watching Elio's reaction afterwards, like, that's why I love sports, just to see the sheer raw emotion of these guys and gals that work so hard to get to that pinnacle and that peak. And he's obviously been there quite a lot, and then, I don't know, fell off the mountain is the right term, but obviously Penske doesn't involve him anymore in their IndyCar package, and then here you go, Meyer Shank Racing, and now he's won 4, and we'll have that storyline of 5 for the next couple of years. So I just think it's great for the sport as well to keep the casual fan invested into it. So it was an awesome day weather-wise, awesome race for sure, and just so good to be back. And it got me thinking of, like, wow, I can't wait to see Lucas Oil Stadium packed again. I mean, I can't wait to see Grand Park, hopefully with fans. I mean, who knows what that'll be. But just that we're inching closer and closer to that. Obviously, we watch these NBA playoffs, and just to see fans in those buildings and bigger crowds in those buildings as well.
If they mind their business.
Yeah, that's a great point. If they're not trying to pull a John Green or whoever that dude was from the Mouse at the Palace. So. Totally fun. As I was saying on last week's podcast, the fact that, I can be there as a fan and really soak that in, I enjoy. And, I mean, to go from Colts practice last Thursday, our final OTA session, and now they are full on summer vacation. I'm filling in for Dan Dockich later today. We're actually going to have Frank Reich on the show. Nice. And so we'll probably come back, and for those that miss it, we'll slot it into next week's podcast. But looking forward to that. As you guys probably listen to this, that interview will have probably already happened. But excited to get into a little bit of the OTAs. And for the most part, Chris, we'll probably be a little bit shorter on podcasts moving forward. 45-ish minutes is kind of my goal for the next couple months. We still have a lot of Twitter questions to get to and things like that, and we'll get to some different sort of storylines until training camp, but we won't, go hour and 15 like we typically do.
Yeah, and I know you echo the sentiment as well. Obviously, the long weekend. Thank you to all the troops who serve, all those who've fallen. Yeah,
I mean, when I hear taps at the race, it's just instant hair on the back, and when they go around the track, the troops before the start, they come right out in front of us in 4 and then end there. It's awesome to kind of give them a couple of different standing ovations. So certainly, thank you to all. And I know we always probably the most touching thing that I get each year, Chris, is we probably have, I don't know, three or four servicemen and women that will DM us and say, I'm stationed, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for giving me a sense of normalcy. And at first I'm like, you want to thank us? Oh my gosh, we are thanking you certainly for the ultimate sacrifice. So, thank you for throwing that in there.
Absolutely. Well, there's no real easy transition from that standpoint. Obviously, we appreciate all the servicemen and women. Let's go to the GOAT.
Yeah,
Adam Vinatieri. Is he retired? Isn't he retired?
Yeah, I think he is. I was listening to that Pat McAfee interview. I don't know, what was it, last Wednesday, last Thursday, something like that. And I was like, boy, I think Adam Vinatieri just announced his retirement, but I'm not 100% sure. And obviously, I think we knew it was coming, as much as we wanted the Hollywood ending and as much as Vinny is the ultimate competitor.
Right.
You just never knew, him ending his career, unfortunately, on a block kick, return for a touchdown is not the way that, he wanted to go out. But Father Time eventually did get to the GOAT, but by no means, Chris, should this tarnish his legacy, his career. To play that position, there is just a clutch and pressure factor that I don't know if any athlete truly feels. Maybe if you're a goalie and you get kind of isolated in some PK situations, sure. But as a kicker, for a team sport, I don't know if you have more pressure on you in any other position. Again, very isolated. Yeah, quarterback. But again, quarterback, you're in and out of the game. You've got 4 quarters. As a kicker, you might have one chance the whole game. As a closer, you can rely on your defense behind you to potentially bail you out. As a kicker, it's you. And it's that operation. And I don't think anyone has defined the word clutch, ice in your veins, more than Adam Vinatieri. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is not a Hall of Famer. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like that needs to be no discussion whatsoever. For Mike Chappell, I assume it'll be Chap that presents him. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the New England representation there. But it comes down to me of those pressure kicks. And, I don't know if I tried to retweet some of Bill Belichick's comments throughout the past few days because, obviously, he's a gold standard when it comes to coaching. And I felt, pretty eloquently, which I don't know, that's a word we frequently use for Belichick, but just look at him and his words describing Adam Vinatieri and the type of athlete and type of performer he has been in his NFL career. And that, to me, speaks more volumes than any words that I'm going to say on this, I don't know, hopefully a little bit better than mediocre podcast. But just look at all the numbers. It's the 29 game-winning field goals. It's the 4 Super Bowls. It's the 2 game winners in the Super Bowls with New England. And, Chris, I think we forget, and sometimes I forget because I was so young, as you were, when those Super Bowls happened for the Patriots. I think the first one was 48 yards, and the second game winner was 41. We're not talking, hey, we've got to the 5-yard line, let's position it in the middle of the field and trot out Vinatieri for a glorified extra point. These are long freaking kicks.
Yeah.
And he's making those to win Super Bowl. So, hat tip to the GOAT. Again, first ballot, no doubt in my mind. I know his percentages won't go down in NFL lore of whatever, Justin Tucker or somebody else. But at that position, what you do in the final 2 minutes, what you do in the playoffs, what you do in weather, the kick obviously in the Tuck rule game. That to me is what defines how great of a kicker you are in the NFL. And Adam Vinatieri, no one did it better than him. So unbelievable career and first balloter.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, that was one of the, obviously I remember the Tuck rule game and the first field goal because we didn't hate the Patriots back then. It was kind of, Tom Brady's a great story. I kind of wanted the Patriots to win. They were an AFC team. I remember vividly that Super Bowl against the Panthers. That was also the Justin Timberlake halftime show.
Oh, wow. Great. Yeah, wow. Well, some might have remembered it for other reasons then.
Yeah. So
maybe their first exposure. Maybe a young Chris Presley's first exposure, young Kevin Bowen's first exposure to female anatomy.
But I remember him making that kick.
Politically correct statement.
I remember him making that kick and remembering, okay, this guy's really good.
Yeah, really bleeping good.
This guy's really good.
Got a Super Bowl here. Got another Super Bowl, I should say, here as well. So, awesome career, Adam Vinatieri, and congrats.
So last week, OTAs. Any takeaways from, we're seeing Carson Wentz back out there? Pretty good at knockout.
Yeah, him and Mo Alley Cox.
Him and Mo Alley
Yeah,
Cox.
Carson Wentz looking like a pretty good athlete. I'm going to judge that he dominated in North Dakota high school basketball. I can't imagine 6'5", 230, and with a jumper that looked like that. I'm going to say that he more than held his own up there. But
have you been close to him yet? Because every time I hear someone report, they just always talk about how big of a person he actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess 100 yards, probably the closest that I've been so far. So they put the quarterbacks on the far end. They put linebackers and D linemen in front of us, but that's been the closest. But certainly, knowing how big Jacob Eason is, knowing how big some of the other players are on that roster, and so when he gets into a huddle and he more than holds his own there with some of those offensive linemen, you're like, wow. And I think Frank used the term like physical specimen. I mean, that's accurate. I know that might sound weird to like describe an NFL athlete like that when you're comparing him to other NFL athletes, but I do think Carson stands out on an NFL field. I guess let me start here. Again, this is it. We won't see them again until Grand Park, and the Colts won't see them again. Veterans are gone. Veterans are all over the country now. The rookies are still in the building this week, but that's it for coaches with their players. Frank made it very clear that the big goal was you want to drill fundamentals and you want to establish an 8-week plan for these guys now that they're on their own, but also there were some tweaks to the scheme, so some changes. And I think when he says that, I think he means QB skill set. I think he means RPOs. Right? That, to me, I think is what stood out in these 2 weeks of just, yes, we aren't seeing them in any sort of really full throttle competitive one-on-one, 11-on-11 settings, but I just think you're going to see Carson's legs used, again, not as much as like, oh my gosh, 7 carries for 42 yards. Keep plays alive. Get on the perimeter. Now all of a sudden you got a rollout, and you didn't have a rollout last year with Phillip Rivers. What does that do to your wideouts, to your passing trees, those sorts of things there? Obviously, I think what we're hearing a lot, Chris, is teammates, gushing over Carson Wentz as a teammate. And I want to go back to something we talked about right when I think this trade happened, of when you heard guys like Malcolm Jenkins for the Eagles, Chris Long for the Eagles, 2 very outspoken and well-respected veterans inside that locker room. It was never like Carson is a bad guy or a bad teammate. It's just this dude kind of likes to hunt, and he's from North Dakota, and I don't know how many guys in a 53-man locker room like to hunt or are from North Dakota. So he's just not reaching every corner of the locker room. That doesn't mean he's a bad teammate. But both Malcolm Jenkins and Chris Long said this. Fine guy, nice guy, just win. That's all we care about at the end of the day. If you win, that locker room is going to like you. And that's a lot of pressure on that position, but flat out, that's what comes with making the amount of money that those guys make in this league. So, again, I never felt like when I heard, Carson Wentz, bad teammate, I don't think we ever put very much stock into that on this podcast because, again, it was not so much of this is Nate Bjorkgren type stories, which, yes, we do owe you a Pacers podcast at some point. We'll wait till some dust settles here. But, like, those stories are pretty wild. I don't think it's that with Carson, like he's getting in verbal altercations with guys in the locker room. No, it's just he beats to a little bit of a different drum than those guys in the locker room. And when losing starts to happen, I think that stuff gets a little bit blown out of proportion there. And I thought Carson said it the best. Like so much of, this honeymoon period, Carson flat out's like, hey, the test will be on Sundays. And that ultimately is where he's going to have to prove himself. And sure, there'll be tests when you get into late December and, hopefully, obviously, for this team, January. But it's one of those things where, and obviously, I say this a lot, that you have instances in sports where in the least or not as pressure-packed situation, guys show up. How many NBA players can score 8 points in a first quarter? You scoring 8 points in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line, 10 points in a quarter. PGA Tour player. A lot of guys can go shoot 65 on Thursday. You can go shoot 65 on Sunday when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are, and I think with Wentz, he gets that. Yes, he's doing everything he needs to do right now as a teammate and as a leader, but he knows your leadership in May and your leadership in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes to go in a game, that's different. I found it a little interesting. He really harped on how new the playbook was for him terminology-wise. I don't know if that's a phrase, but
yeah.
It sounds decent. Like, I felt like, I don't know, at least publicly, Phillip Rivers was like, oh, yeah, you know, I know 90 or 95% of the playbook already. So I don't know if it's like an immense learning, but I do think it's a little bit more learning for Carson than maybe it was for Phillip there. So I guess that is the offensive stuff that kind of stands out to me, Chris. Mike Strawn really seems to be a guy that, I'm going to ask Frank about him today, really seems to be a guy that they continue to like and feel like that learning curve won't be as immense. Michael Pittman, I think his fiance had their daughter, last week, so he wasn't out there. So Strong got some run with those starters. So just interesting to see a day 3 pick out there in that mix. And obviously Desmond Patman and him, I think that'll be kind of a nice battle to see, all right, who is kind of that next guy of a body type that we want to get out there on the field. And then it continues to be good to see Marlon Mack and Paris Campbell working because
and extra working, right?
Yeah. I mean, they are doing a lot. It seems like.
Like I saw that Carson and Paris Campbell both were doing extra work offensively that they necessarily didn't have to do.
Yeah, and I know Campbell, I think, if I'm not mistaken, threw with Carson before they got together for these 2 weeks, and will do the same in June. And, like, this team didn't make a lot of moves, you know, skill group-wise in the offseason. It was a re-sign of T.Y. and a 4th-round pick of Kylan Granson. It wasn't a whole lot. You ended the year without Mack and Campbell. So, now, that's a lot to bank on, injuries, for different reasons, the position Marlon plays, and obviously Paris's injury history. But, like, this offense could put up a decent amount of points late in the year without those two. So, now it's you have those two. And, obviously, if healthy, big roles in different ways for both of them. You know, Kwity Paye at right defensive end, like, that seems to be the thing. I look at it as kind of 3 DNs for 2 spots, Chris.
Okay.
Tyquan Lewis and Kwity Paye, and I posted a depth chart to the website on Monday. We won't get into too much of that right now, but feel free, if you guys have any questions on that, to check that out and fire them my way. I think it'll be Lewis and Paye when you get to week 1, but I don't want to discredit Al-Qadim Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we didn't see Kamoko Turi in the spring, and boy, it's something, Chris, where you think back to where he was at last season, and he had to have the offseason surgery following last year. He played 8 games last year. He didn't have a sack or a QB hit in 7 of those 8 games. He feasted on Jacksonville the last game of the season. That was it. So, again, how much of that was that ankle? And clearly he needed a cleanup, whatever you want to call it. I guess a little bit more than cleanup because he's missed now the entire spring. But, man, this is big. I mean, it's a contract year for him. I feel like at times we kind of lose sight of his age and where he's at. But this is year 4. Second-round pick, year 4. Contract year for him. And his resume is 25 games played, 23 missed. So it's not just suit up. Yes, suit up is one thing. I mean, he hasn't done that much, but it's also then where he is at production-wise. I think Tyquan Lewis is such an underappreciated guy in this football team. And watching him go through these last 2 weeks, I'm reminded of that. And now it's Nico Autry not here. I think that, like, people need to really appreciate what Tyquan Lewis's role is going to be. You know, I think Autry had 8 sacks last year, and Lewis had like 4 or 5, similar tackle for loss numbers. But, you know, Autry's playing 200-some more snaps than Lewis. So, can you get Tyquan to that production over 16 games? Him staying healthy, you know, hasn't been a guarantee as well. I'm excited to watch guys like E.J. Speed, Marvell Tell, and Isaiah Rodgers. Those are a couple kind of former day 3 picks that I don't really know what the roles are going to be, to be frank, but excited to see that in training camp. Looks like there will be a kicker competition, and it looks like Hot Rod will have the early advantage, which totally fine. Totally get that. But competition should be there. I think, lastly, unless anything stood out to you, Chris, the one thing that I noticed in terms of who was there and who was available, I think every starter, projected starter, I should say, participated in one of the two sessions, if not both, besides Nelson, which I think we've mentioned here, a couple of just little cleanups for him in the offseason. Fisher, obviously, with the Achilles. And then I didn't see Xavier Rhodes at either of them. It wouldn't shock me if Xavier Rhodes was just like, hey, I'm good in Florida. You guys kind of do that. I know some people, I've had a couple of people kind of message me being like, it's, why isn't Xavier there? That's, just pull up any team in the league and you're going to see multiple guys that aren't there.
Brady's not there.
That's it's just how guys work and operate. And Xavier Rhodes is, if we're going to grade him on the Colt character scale of a 10, I don't know if he's meeting at a 10. He's not a bad human by any means. Trust me. Like, he works, but I just think he's like, I'm good, doing something else. So, I think those are kind of the main takeaways that I had.
Obviously we have plenty of time to talk about it leading up to the season, but a quick question. With Carson being as mobile as he is, should Colts Nation not freak out if we have some early holding calls on the offensive line and freaking out about, is this offensive line really as good as everyone says it is?
Yeah, and obviously you're throwing in the Sam Tevy factor of however long he's going to be in the lineup. So yeah, that is something to mention. And I think, I forget what interview I was doing late last week, someone was asking me just about Carson and his mobility and staying healthy. I think that might be the bigger thing to watch.
Okay.
Just, there are some people that feel like he maybe got a little gun shy, which is weird to say gun shy for a guy that led the league in interceptions last year. Like, that doesn't really add up to me. But I am curious just how willing of a runner, how frequently of a runner. And when I say a runner, I go back to what I said earlier. Scrambler, keep plays alive sort of thing. Because I do think, and we talked about this a lot after that wild card game, third down red zone, Josh Allen made plays with his legs. Mm-hmm. And that's what won Buffalo the football game in my mind. So I do think that'll be something to watch, along with, like you said, a few more penalties, Sam Tevy in the mix, and then obviously just the general health of your quarterback.
Yeah. All right, well, like you said, it's a little bit shorter of podcast right now as we're in OTAs in the offseason. But let's jump into some Twitter questions, as we always appreciate. Thank you guys so much for sending these in.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate that.
First one comes from Cody. With the two biggest needs addressed, what's the biggest question mark for this team now?
Okay, I assume quarterback, left tackle would maybe be the big. Well, I guess maybe edge rush.
Yeah.
If he's referring to the draft. Well, Cody, it's kind of funny. I posed this question really in a similar sense to Chris Ballard during that draft film breakdown. And and again, he didn't really mention anything too glaring. I'm going to try and ask Frank Reich that question today. I know it's not going to go well, but, I don't know. You feel like you got to try and get him to be somewhat candid. He said corner is what Ballard said. And I guess it was more of a depth question. And again, he mentioned cornerback was what he initially said. I maybe threw back to him linebacker, and I think they seem like Zaire Franklin is ready to step in for Anthony Walker. Now, I think the bigger issue, again, is if it's a Leonard or Okereke going down for 4 games, now all of a sudden it's Zaire Franklin playing snaps he's never seen, EJ Speed playing snaps he's never sniffed, really. So I think when you put Wentz and everything at stake at that position to the side, I would say just the biggest question mark for this team, it's probably how quickly the pass rush delivers.
Okay.
I know a lot of people say, what about Eric Fisher and his health? And I don't know, maybe Xavier Rhodes maintaining that top flight corner play. Sure, but I'll go back to Wilson, Stafford, week 1, week 2, just that general schedule the first 5 weeks. How quickly does your pass rush produce? Mainly edge rush, but I'll throw the entire unit into that group. That's, I think, the biggest question mark for this team.
Okay. This next question comes from Jason. Hear me out. No, we haven't seen 2017 Wentz in the last 3 seasons, but are we sure the 2017 Wentz is his ceiling? The guy was only in year 2 of his career at that point.
Oh, wow. Okay, one more time. Run that at us.
So Jason's kind of opening up a little bit here.
Yeah, this is big.
2017 Wentz, we haven't seen that in the last 3 seasons.
Correct.
But are we sure that that was his ceiling, and that was when he was an MVP caliber quarterback and had the ACL surgery?
Jeez. Wow. Jason. Okay. So he basically is like, this dude can play an MVP level, if not more.
Yeah.
Moving forward. Wow. That's a lot. I guess let's just start here. 2017 in the NFL, those are dog years. I mean, that's a long time ago. I mean,
great way to put it.
Charles, Chuck was coaching the Colts. So Frank Reich's going into year 4. That's a lot. And honestly, when I say that, Chris, I don't mean it just in the NFL sense. I mean it. A lot's happened to Carson Wentz. He's torn an ACL.
Right.
He's knocked out of the playoff game with a concussion. Back injury ends another season for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously just all the Eagle bullshit, for lack of a better term. I don't know. It felt good to get a good cuss in early in the morning. So sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. The thing that always stands out to me about 2017 when I've gone back and looked at that season for Wentz, he was the number 1 quarterback in the league on third down and in the red zone. I cannot stress enough how incredible that feat is and how much that just shifts your entire landscape as a quarterback. If you are unbelievable on first and second down, and you're moving the ball up and down the field, and you're middle of the pack quarterback on third down the red zone, we're not talking about you late in the season. But if you get in 3rd and 7s and you start converting them at a high rate, and you get in the red zone and you start cashing in touchdowns, whew.
I mean, hell, look at last year. The biggest gripe on Phillip Rivers was we got down there and we had to kick field goals.
Yep.
That was one of the biggest gripes, is he was able to drive us down and we couldn't turn those into 7-point drives. They were 3-point drives.
Yeah, it's a great point. And it's something that I have a long list of Frank Reich questions today. We'll see how many that I get to. But situationally, that is what he really hated about last season. That's probably not the right term, but he was really disappointed in that area. And Jacoby and that offense were actually pretty good in that area. So I guess what I'm getting at here is it's really difficult to maintain that and sustain that. Wentz did that in 2017. So, yeah, Jason, I can't go there. And part of me is just like, should we just temper expectations a little bit here? Like, if you say, hey, Carson, or you say, hey, Frank, hey, Chris, here's 2018, 2019 Carson Wentz, you want to sign? I think they're signing. Frank, knowing him and how confident he is, I don't know, maybe he might be a little bit more aggressive in that sense, but yeah, Jason, I can't go there. I can't. Yeah, only in year 2, but a lot of scar tissue.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally has happened since.
Osandius asked, for some reason, if Wentz gets hurt week 1 as a starter, how confident are you in Jacob Eason as a starter on a scale of 1 to 5? As a point of reference, Alex Smith went 23 touchdowns to 7 interceptions in his first year in Kansas City. I have faith in Ballard, and I want Wentz to succeed. However, in the world where Luck retired, what are your thoughts this close to June?
Boy, that's a good one. Yeah, Osandius, that's a great. I hope that we're pronouncing that right. That's what I would go with. But that's a great name. Yeah, can I answer this one in late August? I really got to see Eason.
Yeah.
In some preseason action. I always come back to this. Jacob Eason in the last 4 years. You talk about how long since 2017. In that span, that dude's played 11 games of football.
I mean, that's the number 1 guy I'm going to be looking at in preseason.
Right. Last year, I want to say the final number that I tallied was 33 passes in training camp in 11 on 11. 33 passes. And we're talking, what, 14 practices, 17? I have no idea the final number. But, yeah, 23 touchdowns to 7 picks. That's pretty damn good for Alex Smith. And I think that's the efficiency that Alex Smith had. I mean, when I see that ratio on a 1 to 5 scale, is that a 4? I mean, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
What faith would I have in Eason? I mean, again, it's impossible for me to answer right now. I would say a 2.
Okay.
But I really think, and you guys heard me say this last year with Rivers, and if Brissett somehow was needed, I would have said, look over Brissett, just throw Eason in there. To me, again, it's much more of we're not evaluating him on a 2021 scale. We're evaluating him on, do you see things that you can point to moving forward?
Right.
And I know that's a lot. That's something Colts fans, I don't know, some Colts fans do want to think about because they love Jacob Eason. Others would say no because that means Carson Wentz has gotten hurt or bombed or whatever there. So, yeah, I mean, I'll give it a 2, but, I mean, that could change for better or for worse come August.
All right, Jason has a pretty interesting question. With college football putting out so many NFL-ready wide receivers, has that position become a little bit more devalued like running back has, in the sense that you don't necessarily have to pay them the second big contract? You can just go get another guy in the draft.
That's interesting. I like the thinking, but I don't think I agree with it. I don't think the position is being devalued. Honestly, I think it's being used more. You see more wideouts on the field. I just think you have more bodies. More guys play wideout. Think about like in high school, you probably have, 3-4 running backs that are rotating in or out unless you got a stud. I mean, some teams are running straight up wishbone, triple option, like things like that. And now, I mean, I can't tell you last time I've been to a high school football game, but, the few highlights I see, it's spread. I mean, it's full on. I mean, that's what they're doing. So, again, I don't think it's a position being devalued. I just think, frankly, you've got more dudes that want to play wideout. And I also think it's a little different than running back because you have so many just injury issues at running back. You don't have as much at wideout. Now, having said all that, I do think you saw wideouts get a little bit devalued in free agency. Now, some guys cashed in, but Juju did not.
Right.
Somebody else, one of those other big-name wideouts, did not really cash in. Galladay did cash in, but somebody else didn't get a whole lot of money. And I think that is NFL teams saying, hey, let's just go to the draft. You can find deep, deep classes there. So, yeah, that's kind of my thought there.
Question from Mitchell, who listens to the podcast fairly often. So thank you, Mitchell, for tuning in.
Thank you, Mitchell. Mitchell's always been a diehard.
Says that Mathis is going into the Ring of Honor during the Bucs game. If you had a prediction, based on the current players on this roster, which player ends up in the Ring of Honor?
I can only go one?
You can and that's a credit to Chris Ballard because I think there are a couple.
I can only pick one.
You can only pick one.
Oh, shit. Gee, gosh, if I say Nelson, Darius Leonard will show up at MS by noon.
But as we've seen, if you go Nelson, this is another audio clip that Darius Leonard can put a chip on his shoulder, so you're kind of fueling the fire there.
I was on the Colts podcast yesterday with Larry Overton and Casey Valier and Jeffrey Gorman, and I said Buckner is the most important player in the team, non-Wentz division, or quarterback division. And quickly, I thought to myself, boy, yeah, can't wait for 53 to retweet that. Nelson and Leonard. I'm sorry. I'm gonna cop out both. I mean, Nelson obviously is going in the Ring of Honor. He's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, who else? I don't know. I mean, Jonathan Taylor. If you really, again, we're really projecting far ahead here, but I think the big key in all of this is you got to find a Super Bowl. You really need a Super Bowl on the resume when you're going to get into, what if Braden Smith has a 13-year career at right tackle? Now, Tari Glenn's not even getting in, so, or at least hasn't. Right. So maybe not. Buckner, what if he continues to be at an All-Pro as well? I know a lot of people will say Hilton. I am, and this is just peak June, July, summer rant. I'm tired of just anybody going in the Ring of Honor. And I don't say that just for the Colts Ring of Honor. I remember going to some of these other stadiums around the league and being like, that dude's in that team's Ring of Honor? Yeah. What the? And we have always been T.Y. Hilton supporters on this
Absolutely,
podcast.
Yeah.
Unbelievable career that he's had. And, he's really in a great franchise for wideouts. I mean, hell, he might be the 4th or 5th best wideout in this franchise. And when you're talking Raymond Berry and Marvin and Reggie and Bill Brooks even. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's just and I forget, I forget who, one of my colleagues has always brought this up. Like, there should be a Colts Hall of Fame and a Colts Ring of Honor. Like, you got your name embroidered inside the stadium. That's a big effing deal to me. And I see Jim Harbaugh up there, and I'm like, oh gosh, boy. I mean, it's just kind of like,
because clearly it's situational. It's like,
Really?
all right, well,
Yeah.
you helped bring us.
right. It is so situational. Like Hilton, I just can't go there. If he would have strung together, I don't know. If he does string together 3 more 1,000-yard seasons and you win a Super Bowl, I don't know. Yes, he's probably in then. But right now, I would say no on him. It's just, Ring of Honor, you got to be the number one. And again, T.Y.'s in a loaded wideout group. You got to be the best player at that position or maybe second in that franchise's history, bar none. And you got to have a Super Bowl.
Right.
That's the Kevin Bowen criteria that probably no one cares about, but that is the Kevin Bowen criteria for the Ring of Honor.
Well, the nice part is everyone who's listening to this podcast, especially if you're part of Colts Nation, we're in the Ring of Honor, 12th man.
I know. I'm like, this crowd noise, it's got to get louder.
Yep.
If you're going to put the 12th man in the Ring of Honor, come on now.
Yep.
Seattle, L.A., first 2 weeks of the season, bring it.
Question from Drew, is Wentz's floor higher than a 39-year-old Phillip Rivers ceiling?
Oh, boy. I feel like Michael Jordan is the roof. There's the ceiling, the roof. Is Carson Wentz's floor higher than a 39-year-old Phillip Rivers ceiling? No. I mean, we saw Wentz's floor last year, unfortunately. I mean, that was, what was it, 57%? And I think he had just as many touchdowns as picks, and the rating was a good golf score, which is not what you want. You want your rating to be a bad golf score. And Rivers was, right around 70%, and that rating, I think, hovered close to 100 all year long. So, yeah, no way is Carson Wentz's floor higher than a 39-year-old Phillip Rivers ceiling.
Yeah, if your percentage is closer to my golf score, you're doing great. You don't want to be closer to Kevin's. You want to be closer to mine.
Yeah, you get in triple digits, and you're gonna be in your team's Ring of Honor.
You know what? I get my money's worth when I go to the golf course.
Hey, that's smart.
Hit the ball a lot.
Playing 36 holes.
All right, from Mitch, does it surprise you that the Colts aren't playing in the Hall of Fame game this year between Edrin and Peyton? He kind of expected them to play. Thought about going to Canton for the weekend, and he's a little bit disappointed that they're not playing in that game.
I am not surprised because, if I'm not mistaken, you have a Steeler and a Cowboy going in, and any chance to get those two teams.
Right.
Though that is the epitome of iconic fans that travel. Now, are we still doing our Hall of Fame package?
So the Hall of Fame package for the first round has ended. It will be coming up later again. We do have a second. If you go to 1075thefan.com and WIBC.com, I believe in July we are going to do a second wave of Hall of Fame packages. And it's a VIP package, so it's great.
And you will still get your tickets to the ceremony. What else, I guess, does that package entail?
You get travel.
Okay.
You get hotel. You get VIP access to the Hall of Fame players that are being inducted for a meet and greet. And you get to go to the ceremony.
And there's tons of events in that weekend. I do think it's a really cool weekend. Just to kind of soak it all in, especially if you're kind of an NFL, historian fan or something like that. So we'll definitely mention that, continue to mention that between now and early August. But I am not surprised, to be honest with you, Mitch. So, yeah, it's just Steelers, Cowboys. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. How do we get people to Northeast Ohio? Perfect.
All right, 2 more. This one comes from Casey. Kevin, you are the GM of the Colts.
Oh, shit. Well,
so get ready.
Sorry.
Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, and Darius Leonard are in contract years. Who do you keep and why?
So can I keep all of them, or is this?
You can only keep 2.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a big piece
time
that I missed there. So you're the GM of the Colts. You can only keep 2 of these players. Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, and Darius Leonard.
Whew, man. I know everyone will quickly go to Nelson and Leonard, and I do think that's the right answer, but it's not that easy for me. First off, I want someone on offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what includes Leonard. obviously then people would be like, well, hell yeah, you keep Nelson. It's just the argument about tackle versus guard. I think that Nelson's presence just means something. Not maybe as much vocally, but I mean, that dude is a commanding presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is some intimidation. I don't know if that's the right word, but I do think that's really important. But I can listen to people that are going to, talk up Braden Smith, but I'm going to go with Nelson and Leonard there.
Yep. Okay. Last Twitter question for the podcast comes from Jimbo Slice. Great name.
Oh, that's a great name.
He's a long-time first.
Intimidating.
Yeah, long-time first time.
Let's go.
Hypothetical. You're told the Colts have a 25% chance to win the Super Bowl this upcoming season. The catch is you have to give up 2 first-round picks. Would you do it?
Whoa. Okay. Read give it to me again.
You have a 25% chance that the Colts will win the Super Bowl. However, you have to give up 2 first-round picks.
25% chance to win the Super Bowl. You got to give up 2
Which is tough because you already given up 1.
Jeez.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Boy, I feel like I'm Alan in The Hangover with that gif. Just like 25% chance, 2 first-round picks. Yeah, I mean, the whole, am I giving the Eagles a second rounder? That's that. Or is this like 3 first rounders? Am I giving up? Literally, my first next year's going to Philly, and then I've got to send 2023 and 2024 first rounders. Man, that's tough. So right now, I'm going to guess the Colts have like I don't know if you looked at Vegas odds, probably like a 5% chance, I don't know, to win the Super Bowl.
I'd have to look them up.
Probably something like that.
Probably something around there.
25% chance. That's those are great odds. I also am thinking to myself, boy, giving up 3 first-round picks is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because like 25% chance, I guess you could easily be like, oh, that means you lose in the AFC title game.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, yeah, and you don't have your first-round picks the next 3 years. I'm going to say no. 3, that's a lot. Boy. I love the thought process. I love the thinking. My mind is blown, really. That's a great question to end the podcast on, but I don't know. Would you?
I think that's just too much capital.
Yeah.
I mean, 25% is are great odds.
Yeah.
But knowing how stacked the AFC is right now in terms of going through the playoffs with those quarterbacks you're going to have to face, man, it's just because you would hope if you lose, we're trying to go up this ladder. You're trying to go ring by ring, and if you lose, you don't have those first-round picks to come in and hopefully solidify what your missing pieces are that you can get to the Super Bowl. So
it's just a little scary for me.
Yeah.
But, hey, I mean, I'm all about, flipping. Well, I guess we're flipping a little bit of a weighted coin there, but it's a coin that's got some okay odds on it. Yeah. Oh, that was a good one, Jimbo. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. So that wraps up the Twitter questions. What else you got coming out on 1075thefan.com this week, Kev?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier we posted the depth chart, or kind of a projected depth chart in my mind coming out of the spring. So check that out if you haven't already. I thought a good piece on Darius Leonard that I just posted earlier on Wednesday morning about how he's kind of got to be a different Darius Leonard this year. I thought he was pretty candid in talking about basically Anthony Walker gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be a little bit more different this season. And then got something else on the left tackle situation, just a little bit back into Chris Ballard's mind on what they were thinking. And no to Charles Leno, no to Christian Darrisaw at 21.
Right.
Instead going with Kwity Paye. So I hope you guys will enjoy that. And we'll have written content every single weekday between now and training camp. Sometimes a couple articles a day, but definitely at least one a day. So make sure that you check that out. And we'll be back every week between now and late July. So for Chris Presley, I'm Kevin Bowen. Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week on Kevin's Corner. This has been Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for the best Colts and Pacers coverage.